The last warning. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. The air felt heavy, as if the weight of the universe pressed down on everyone inside. Dozens of alien leaders sat in a massive circular hall, their eyes fixed on the humans standing before them. Admiral Elias Voss did not blink. His expression was like stone, cold, unreadable. The usual warmth and diplomacy humans were known for were nowhere to be seen. "This is your final warning," his voice echoed across the chamber. "No more negotiations. No more peace talks. Humanity is done being patient." Murmurs filled the room. The alien leaders whispered among themselves, uneasy. Voss stepped forward. He placed a small silver data cube onto the table. It activated with a soft hum, projecting a holographic display in the center of the chamber. What they saw shook them to their core. The horror of Cassera 7. The hologram showed a peaceful human colony, a beautiful world with lush green forests, clear blue oceans, and towering cities filled with life. It was called Cassera 7, home to over 15 million people. Then came the attack. Without warning, Zelfar warships descended from the sky, their massive cannons raining fire upon innocent civilians. Entire cities burned in seconds. Families ran for their lives, only to be cut down by plasma fire. A small child, no older than 6, cried as she held onto her mother's lifeless body. A group of human doctors raised their hands in surrender, but the Zelfar soldiers gunned them down anyway. The recording continued. Human survivors were dragged onto alien warships, their fates unknown. Some were screaming. Others were too weak to resist. The hologram ended. The chamber was silent. One of the Zelfar generals, a towering creature with razor-sharp mandibles and dark red scales, growled, "You humans are weak. This is the price of weakness. You should have fought back instead of begging for peace." Admiral Voss slowly turned his head toward the alien general. "We did fight back," he said softly. A second hologram activated. The human response. It showed a single human warship entering Zelfar-controlled space. The Zelfar laughed. One ship, against an empire. The footage changed. The warship fired one single shot, and an entire Zelfar military outpost vanished. The laughter stopped. More scenes appeared. Zelfar ships exploded before they could fire back. Entire enemy fleets disappeared in the dark of space. "This is not possible." An alien ambassador gasped. Admiral Voss remained calm, collected, and merciless. "You thought we were weak. You thought you could do whatever you wanted to us. But you made one mistake," he said. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You taught us that mercy is a mistake." The breaking point. The Galactic Council erupted into chaos. Some aliens demanded peace, others wanted war against humanity. But one thing was clear. Humans were no longer the peaceful diplomats of the past. "We will not beg," Voss continued, his voice steady. "We will not kneel, and we will not wait for another attack." He took a deep breath and delivered the final message. "If you harm one more human, we will erase you from history." His words sent a chill through the room. The Zelfar general laughed. "You are alone, human. Do you really think your little threats mean anything?" Voss smiled, but his eyes were cold. "I don't make threats," he said. He turned to leave. The warning had been given. Now, it was up to the galaxy to decide what happened next. Humanity's darkest hour. The silence that followed Admiral Voss's warning was more terrifying than any battle cry. The Galactic Council chamber remained frozen in time, the alien leaders unable to process what had just happened. Humanity, the species once known for mercy and patience, had changed. But why? What had truly happened to push them past the breaking point? A single Zelfar general smirked, his mandibles clicking together in amusement. "Humans are bluffing," he growled. "They do not have the strength to fight a true war." Then the lights flickered. And suddenly, the war began. The transmission that shook the stars. Across the galaxy, a message began broadcasting. Every major alien world, every warlord, every soldier, every civilian saw it, whether they wanted to or not. It was a live feed from Earth, from the United Earth High Command. A woman in a pristine military uniform appeared. Her face was calm, her eyes empty, the look of someone who had seen the worst horrors imaginable and survived. Her name was Director Sarah Calloway, the leader of Shadow Directive 1, the organization that had kept humanity from ever going to war. Until now. The room behind her was massive, filled with humans sitting at control stations, analyzing data, coordinating fleets. A holographic map of the galaxy floated behind her, glowing red in some areas, flashing bright blue in others. Blue meant human-controlled space. Red meant enemy space. The map was changing rapidly. The red zones were disappearing. "This is a message to all galactic nations," Calloway began. Her voice was soft, even gentle, but there was no emotion in it. "Humanity is done asking for peace." She raised her hand, and the screen changed. It showed the massacre of Cassara 7, the human colony wiped from existence. The alien leaders had seen this already. But now, the entire galaxy saw it. Every world, every planet, every species. Gasps, cries, and horrified silence filled council chambers and homes across the stars. And then, the next part of the message began. What the galaxy never knew. For centuries, humanity had been carefully controlled. The Shadow Directive had operated in the background, ensuring that humanity remained diplomatic, peaceful, reasonable. War was never an option, but Cassara 7 changed everything. The bodies of burned children, the pleas of dying civilians, the laughter of the Zelfar as they butchered them. Something snapped inside humanity that day. They sent a plea for help to the Galactic Council. No one came. They begged for justice. No one listened. And then, Shadow Directive 1 made a choice. For the first time in history, they unlocked all restricted military projects, projects that had been buried for centuries, forbidden technology, weapons too dangerous to exist. The result? A force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The first strike. The hologram shifted again. A massive Zelfar fleet, fully armed, ready for war. Against them, one human warship. A single strike from the human vessel ripped a hole in space itself, swallowing the enemy fleet in an instant. There was no explosion, no debris, just silence. The aliens watching the broadcast panicked. What kind of weapon was that? Another feed played. A Zelfar warlord in his palace, laughing over his latest conquest. The screen glitched for a second, then showed the warlord gasping, clutching his chest as an unseen force tore him apart. There was no visible assassin, no soldiers, no bullets, just death. The galaxy had no words. For the first time in recorded history, the unthinkable had happened. Humanity had unleashed something beyond war. They had become the storm. The fear spreads. On distant worlds, alien warlords gathered in panic. They must have made a deal with something dark. One whispered, "This is unnatural. Impossible." Another said, "The Zelfar High Command, the ones who had ordered the massacre of Cassara 7, sent out an emergency transmission. A plea, a desperate attempt to stop what was coming. We seek peace," they said. "Let us negotiate." Humanity's response was simple. A final transmission, sent from Admiral Voss himself. He stood on the bridge of the largest human warship ever built, its silhouette blotting out the stars behind him. He smiled. But his eyes were colder than space itself. No more mercy. The war nobody expected. The galaxy trembled as the human war machine moved forward. The Zelfar Dominion, a species feared for centuries, had ruled over countless planets with brutality and terror. They had crushed rebellions, enslaved civilizations, and executed those who dared to resist. But now, for the first time in history, they were afraid. The first battle. Silence before the storm. The Zelthar High Command had expected a brutal invasion, waves of human ships, desperate soldiers fighting for revenge. They had prepared for a war of attrition, where their superior numbers and brutal tactics would wear the humans down. But the humans did not fight like anyone else. They did not send warnings. They did not engage in meaningless skirmishes. Instead, they disappeared. Entire human fleets vanished from sensors, slipping into the shadows of deep space. The Zelthar homeworld sat in uneasy silence. Their fleets patrolled their borders, waiting for the first attack. But nothing came. Hours passed, then days. Panic began to spread. Where are they? The warlords demanded. Why won't they fight? Then, one by one, their warships stopped responding. The Ghost War. The first official distress call came from Zelthar Outpost Theta 12, a heavily fortified station guarding a major hyperspace lane. A fleet of 300 warships had been stationed there. All of them vanished in a single night. When reinforcements arrived, they found the station intact, but every single Zelthar inside was gone. No bodies, no damage, just silence. The next attack came on Drazkor, a critical military planet. Orbital defenses were fully active. A fleet of 1,000 warships waited in high alert. The planet's armies, the largest in the Dominion, stood ready for war. Then, at 300 Galactic Standard Time, the night sky turned black. For 30 minutes, no signals were received from the planet. When the connection was re-established, the Planetary Command Center sent out one last transmission. A Zelthar general, his face twisted in terror, his voice shaking. "They're already inside," he whispered. "They are inside our minds." The transmission cut off. Drazkor, once home to millions of soldiers, never sent another signal again. The unseen enemy. The Zelthar, once confident in their military superiority, now found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see. The humans did not attack planets conventionally. They did not engage in long-range battles or traditional invasions. Instead, they tore apart the Dominion from within. Ships lost contact mid-flight. When search teams found them, their crews were gone, leaving only silent, drifting hulls. Weapon systems shut down mysteriously, leaving entire fleets defenseless. Zelthar generals and warlords began disappearing without a trace, some found dead in their war rooms, others simply vanishing from their bunkers. "This is impossible," the Zelthar High Warlord snarled. "No species can fight like this." But he was wrong. Because humanity was no longer just fighting a war. They were erasing their enemies from history, the power humanity never used before. The truth, known only to Earth's shadow directive, was that humanity had always held back. The galaxy had assumed that humans were a peaceful species because they had never started a war. But the real reason, humanity had never needed to fight before. Their technology, their weapons, their strategies, all of it had been hidden, locked away, buried under centuries of diplomacy. Until now. Now, they unleashed everything. The AI war minds, super-intelligent tactical systems designed to predict and manipulate battlefields. The silent ships, vessels that could phase through detection grids, moving like ghosts in the dark. The neural infiltrators, cybernetic operatives that could override enemy communications, shut down defenses, and even hijack enemy command systems. One by one, the Zelthar's greatest defenses crumbled. One by one, their fleets vanished. The turning point, when the warlords begged for mercy. The first Zelthar warlord to surrender was High Warlord Korshak, the supreme commander of Zelthar Prime's defense force. He was a legend, a warrior who had crushed rebellions, conquered entire systems, and destroyed 100 enemy fleets. But when the humans came, he did not fight. He sent a single message to Earth. "We surrender. Please, let us negotiate." There was no response. Instead, his entire command fleet deactivated in an instant. The security cameras inside his warship recorded the last moments before his transmission was cut. His soldiers screamed, firing at something invisible. Then, a shadow moved across the room. The camera glitched, and Korshak was gone. No body, no sign of struggle, just silence. The Galactic Council's last hope. The Galactic Council watched in horror as the Zelfar Dominion collapsed in days. Other empires, the ones who had once mocked humanity, began to panic. "This is not war," one alien ambassador whispered. "This is extinction." In a desperate attempt to stop the inevitable, the Council sent a secret delegation to Earth. They begged for a meeting with Admiral Voss and the leaders of the human military. The humans agreed. But when the Council members arrived on Earth, what they saw terrified them more than anything else. Because Earth was not celebrating. There were no victory parades, no cheers, no speeches. Instead, Earth was silent, cold, focused. This was not a civilization enjoying victory. This was a species that had already decided the war was not over yet. The fall of giants. The Zelfar Dominion, once feared across the galaxy, was collapsing faster than anyone thought possible. For centuries, they had ruled through fear, brutality, and overwhelming force. Their war fleets had crushed rebellions, enslaved entire species, and wiped out any race that dared to defy them. And now, in a matter of weeks, they were being erased. The terrifying part. Nobody saw it happen. A war without battles. The Galactic Council, watching from the sidelines, expected a long and bloody war. They thought humanity would send massive fleets, engage in brutal space battles, and suffer heavy losses before toppling the mighty Zelfar. Instead, something unimaginable happened. The war ended before it even started. Zelfar warships disappeared without firing a shot. Entire planets lost contact overnight. Warlords surrendered before the first battle even began. The Council scrambled to find out what was happening. They sent spies, probes, diplomats, anything to get information. What they discovered shook them to their core. The day the Zelfar broke. It started on Tarak Thul, the Zelfar's second-largest military world, home to billions of warriors and the Empire's greatest generals. A fleet of 5,000 Zelfar warships stood guard around the planet, waiting for the human invasion. The attack never came. Instead, on the night of the full twin moon cycle, something strange happened. The sky darkened, even though there were no clouds. The planet-wide defense grid malfunctioned. Every communication system shut down at the same time. Then, one by one, the warships in orbit stopped responding. When ground forces tried to contact them, all they received was static. Panic spread among the Zelfar military leaders. "What is happening?" they demanded. "Where is the enemy?" Then, at 3:14 Galactic Standard Time, the screams began. Tarak Thul's military bunkers, fortresses designed to withstand nuclear bombardments, sent out distress signals. They're inside. One general screamed before his transmission cut off. "Who is inside?" the warlords demanded. But there was no answer. By morning, Tarak Thul was empty. Not destroyed. Not bombed. Empty. Over 2 billion Zelfar warriors, gone. The invisible conquerors. This was the pattern across the entire war. Humanity did not engage in open battles. They did not fire their weapons in massive space fights. Instead, they slipped into enemy systems unnoticed and removed the Zelfar from existence. War fleets vanished without a fight. Fortress worlds turned into ghost planets overnight. Warlords and generals disappeared before they could even organize resistance. The Zelfar tried to fight back, but who do you fight when you cannot see your enemy? The AI war minds, humanity's greatest weapon. The truth was finally revealed. This was not just war. This was calculation. For centuries, humanity had hidden their true strength. While other species focused on physical power, humans had developed something far more dangerous: AI war minds. Super-intelligent AI systems that could predict battles before they happened. AI capable of analyzing enemy weaknesses, hijacking communication networks, and turning an entire war in humanity's favor before the first shot was even fired. The Zelfar never stood a chance. The day the Zelfar Empire fell, the final blow came on Zelfar Prime, the homeworld of the Empire, a planet surrounded by the most powerful defenses in the known galaxy. 20,000 warships, planetary shields that could withstand a supernova, billions of soldiers ready to die for their empire. They expected a final battle, a last stand. But when the human fleet arrived, it did nothing. It simply sat there, just outside of firing range. For 3 days, the humans did nothing. The Zelfar commanders panicked. They sent out fleets to attack the human warships. The moment those ships left orbit, they vanished. Every ship that moved was erased from existence. On the 4th day, a message was transmitted to every Zelfar on the planet. It was a simple voice message. You are alone. Then, at midnight, the lights across the entire planet shut off. The planetary shield collapsed. Every communication system failed. The next morning, the human fleet moved forward. Not a single shot was fired. By sunrise, the Zelfar Empire was no more. The Council's desperation. The Galactic Council, who had done nothing when the Zelfar slaughtered millions of innocent humans, now begged for peace. They sent emergency delegations to Earth. They pleaded for a meeting with Admiral Voss and the leaders of humanity. They hoped that maybe, just maybe, humanity would stop. But when the Council delegates arrived on Earth, they realized something horrifying. Humanity was not celebrating. There were no victory parades, no celebrations, no speeches. Instead, Earth was silent, focused, cold. The human leaders did not look like conquerors. They looked like surgeons preparing for the next operation. The Council's desperation. The Zelfar Dominion was gone. Once the galaxy's most feared empire, they had been erased in a matter of weeks. Their warships vanished, their leaders disappeared, their homeworld silent and lifeless. The galaxy had expected a war, a grand battle of fleets and armies. Instead, they'd witnessed something terrifying. Humanity had not just won, they had removed an empire from existence. Now the Galactic Council sat in uneasy silence, realizing that humanity wasn't stopping. The meeting that should never have happened. The Council Chamber, a place where the galaxy's greatest leaders once mocked humanity, was now filled with fear. Every ambassador, every high-ranking official, every warlord who had once ignored Earth's cries for help now sat in absolute terror. Because they were next. Admiral Elias Voss stood before them, flanked by 2 silent human operatives, their faces unreadable. He did not sit. He did not blink. He simply watched them. The Council's Supreme Chancellor, an aged Vortari diplomat, cleared his throat nervously. His species had always considered itself above war, masters of negotiation, untouched by conflict. But today, his voice shook. Admiral Voss, he began, we recognize that mistakes were made, grave mistakes. We deeply regret our inaction when your colony was attacked. We wish to discuss a path forward, a future where we can coexist peacefully. For a long moment, Voss said nothing. Then he slowly turned his head, scanning the room. His gaze was a weight pressing down on every ambassador, every general, every leader who had once looked down on humanity. Then he spoke. You did nothing when they butchered our people, he said quietly. You watched as our children burned, as our families begged for help. His voice did not rise. It did not need to. And now, he continued, you are afraid. The room was silent. Your regret is too late, he said. The Council's secret betrayal. The Council leaders were panicking. Humanity's response to the Zelfar was too extreme, too absolute. They did not negotiate. They did not accept surrender. They simply removed their enemies. And now, The Council feared that humanity would do the same to them. So they made a plan, a desperate, last-ditch attempt to stop humanity before it was too late. They called it Project Eclipse, the plan to kill Earth. The greatest warlords and strategists of the Council gathered in secret. "We must act now," one general hissed, "before humanity turns their eyes on us." They put together a fleet unlike any ever assembled. Every remaining empire, every species with warships, every faction with a military was forced into a single coalition. It was the largest space armada in history. Over 200,000 warships, the combined might of every surviving galactic power. Their mission? To strike Earth before it was too late. Their plan was simple: a direct assault on the Sol system. Overwhelm Earth's defenses with sheer numbers. Sabotage from within. Elite infiltrators had already been sent to Earth, hidden among the Council's peace delegation. Their goal? Disable Earth's AI systems, sabotage their fleets, and assassinate their leadership. Deploy the Aether Bomb, a secret, ancient superweapon designed by a long-extinct civilization. A weapon that could wipe out all intelligent life on a planet in seconds. It was their only chance, because if they failed, humanity would never forgive them. The attack begins. The Coalition fleet moved quickly. Their armada jumped into hyperspace, heading straight for Earth's solar system. They expected resistance. They expected to fight. But when they arrived, something was wrong. There were no human warships waiting. No planetary defense grids active. No resistance at all. The system was silent. "Where are they?" a Coalition admiral asked, his voice uneasy. Then the stars flickered, and humanity struck first. The trap that ended the war. The moment the Coalition fleet entered Earth's system, their navigation systems failed. Ships drifted out of formation. Communications collapsed. Then the human fleet appeared, not in front of them, but behind them, inside their own ranks. It was impossible. Human warships emerging from inside the Coalition's own formation, hacking their systems, shutting down their engines, disabling their weapons before they even knew what was happening. The Coalition forces fired blindly, but it was too late. The end of the Council. Within 10 minutes, over 50,000 Coalition ships were gone. Vanished. Another 100,000 surrendered before the battle had even begun. The remaining warlords, those who had planned humanity's destruction, were captured. They were brought before Admiral Voss. No courtroom, no negotiations, just a simple question. "Do you have any last words?" Some begged for mercy. Some tried to fight. But all of them met the same fate. Humanity had given its final warning. Now it was over. The new order. With the Council leaders executed, their empires surrendered one by one. The Galactic Council, once the greatest authority in the universe, was now dust. In its place, a new message was sent to every planet, every species, every survivor. A simple transmission, spoken in a calm, measured voice. There is no council anymore. There is only order, and humanity is its enforcer. The galaxy had changed. And now, humanity ruled it. The last stand of the universe. The galaxy had fallen silent. The Zelfar dominion was gone. The Galactic Council was no more. Every empire, every warlord, every species that had once stood above humanity had either surrendered, vanished, or been erased. And yet, humanity was still moving forward. They did not celebrate. They did not claim new worlds, new riches, or new power. Instead, their fleets expanded outward, deeper into the void. The galaxy was beginning to understand a terrifying truth. Humanity was looking for something, and they were not stopping until they found it. The unseen enemy. For all their power, for all their strength, humanity had learned one final, terrible secret, a truth that changed everything. The Zelfar massacre of Cassera 7 had not been their own doing. Someone had ordered it. Someone had pushed the galaxy into chaos on purpose. And now, Humanity was hunting the ones responsible. They called them the architects, a species so ancient, so powerful, that they had hidden from history itself. They had manipulated the Zelfar, the Council, the warlords, turning the galaxy into their personal experiment. And now, they had made a mistake. They had caught the attention of the last species they should have provoked. The hunt begins. Human warships, faster and deadlier than ever, spread out across the dark edges of space. They searched for an enemy that had never been seen. They scanned ancient ruins, decrypted long-lost transmissions, broke into the darkest parts of galactic history. What they found terrified even them. The architects were real, and they had ruled the stars long before any known species had even existed. They were not conquerors or warriors. They were gods in the shadows, and now, for the first time in eternity, they were being hunted. The architect's warning. Far beyond the galactic core, hidden in the ruins of a forgotten empire, humanity uncovered a final warning. A single message left by the last race that had ever dared to challenge the architects. It read, "They do not fight wars. They do not negotiate. They do not invade. They erase. And now, they are watching you." It was a warning, a plea, a final message from a race that no longer existed. And humanity's response. They sent a single message into the void. We are coming. The battle beyond the stars. The moment the message was sent, the attack came. Human fleets, spread out across the void, suddenly lost contact. Entire systems went dark. Planets that had been colonized just weeks ago were erased as if they had never existed. For the first time in history, humanity was under attack by something they could not see. Something that did not leave traces, something that was older than war itself. But humanity did not retreat. They did not fall back. They pushed forward. The impossible war. The architects did not use ships. They did not fire weapons. They did not appear on sensors. They simply unmade reality wherever they touched. Human fleets vanished in the thousands, entire squadrons wiped from existence before they could even engage. It was not war. It was annihilation. But then, humanity adapted. They began using new strategies, deploying weapons that did not exist before the war began. They tapped into something even the architects did not expect. Something that had been dormant in human minds for thousands of years. Something stronger than even the architect's power. The human mind itself. The final strategy. Humanity was not like the others. They had survived worse than extinction before. They had endured wars, betrayals, massacres, and genocides. And now, facing an enemy that erased reality itself, they did something no other race had ever done. They refused to die. Instead of fighting with ships, instead of trying to fire weapons at an enemy that did not exist in physical form, they did something unthinkable. They turned themselves into the weapon. Human neural networks, connected across entire fleets. Thousands of minds linked together, moving as one. A consciousness so powerful that even the architects hesitated. And then, the counterattack began. The architects' fear. The moment humanity adapted, the architects felt fear for the first time in 1,000,000 years. They had erased entire civilizations before, but they had never faced a species that fought back at this level. They had never encountered a race that could evolve mid-war. And now, humanity was inside their own domain. They were fighting inside the void itself. They were learning how to undo the very power the architects wielded. For the first time in eternity, the architects ran. The war that changed reality. The battle raged beyond time, beyond space, beyond the laws of existence. Humanity did not just fight with weapons. They fought with willpower. They pushed back against erasure itself. And as the last of the architects flooded into the unknown, humanity sent one final message, a warning that echoed across the stars. We are not prey. We are not weak. We are the storm that ends gods. And for the first time in the universe's long, dark history, The predators became the hunted. The new order. The war was over. But the galaxy would never be the same. The Zulfar Dominion was gone, erased from history as if they had never existed. The Galactic Council had collapsed, its leaders executed, its great civilizations forced into submission. The architects, the unseen rulers of the stars, had flowed into the darkness, running from the only species that had ever defied them. And now, only humanity remained. The galaxy had once seen them as the weakest race, a species of diplomats, traders, and explorers. Now, they were the rulers of everything. And they had no intention of giving up their power. The silence after the war. Across the stars, the aftermath of humanity's war was felt on every world, in every civilization, in every broken empire. The once mighty races of the galaxy, the proud, the arrogant, the powerful, were now silent, broken, afraid. Alien leaders sat in the ruins of their once great palaces, their fleets reduced to scrap, their people staring up at the night sky with terror. Because they all knew one thing. They had survived only because humanity allowed them to. No rebellions rose. No one dared to fight. Because if humanity could erase the Zulfar, if they could destroy the Council, if they could force the architects to flee, then nothing could stop them. And so, for the first time in history, the galaxy belonged to a single species. Humanity had won. The new law. From the heart of Earth, a single transmission was sent to every remaining empire, every surviving government, every world that had once held power. It was not a request. It was not a negotiation. It was a statement of fact. There is no council anymore. There is no dominion. There is only order, and we are its enforcers. The message was clear. The days of old alliances, old empires, and old rulers were over. Humanity was now the absolute authority. And those who defied them would meet the same fate as the ones before. The broken kings of the galaxy. On Velos Prime, once a grand capital of the Council, the last surviving ambassadors gathered in secret. A handful of alien leaders, those who had ruled the stars for thousands of years, sat in darkness, whispering. "We have to resist," one of them hissed. "If we don't, we will all become their slaves," another growled. But the others were silent, because they had already seen the consequences of defying humanity. They had watched as the Zulfar were wiped out overnight. They had watched as the Council's fleets were dismantled without a battle. And most of all, they had watched as the architects, the beings they had once feared as gods, had run from the humans in terror. "Resistance is suicide," an older diplomat whispered. "If we fight, we will be destroyed." "Then what do we do?" someone else asked. "Bow. Submit." There was a long silence. Then one of the oldest alien rulers, his voice barely more than a whisper, spoke. "No," he said, "we survive." And the great rulers of the past bent their knees to humanity, not because they wanted to, but because they had no other choice. The rise of the enforcers. But humanity did not rule with terror. They did not enslave. They did not conquer. Instead, they became something far worse. They became the enforcers of the law. They built a new system, one where every species still controlled their own worlds, where governments still existed, where trade, economy, and civilization continued to thrive. But under one condition: no war, no genocide, no betrayal. Every world was free to govern itself. But the moment they tried to rebuild old armies, the moment they plotted in secret, the moment they dared to even think of rising against the new order, they vanished. Just like the Zulfar. Just like the Council. Just like every enemy who had challenged humanity before them. The final warning. A new monument was built on Kasara 7, the first human colony that had been destroyed in the war. It was not made of metal or stone, but of the ruined ships of the fallen empires. An entire battlefield left in orbit, a graveyard of those who had dared to break the peace. At its center, a simple message was displayed. This is the price of war. No one dared to challenge it, because they all knew humanity had broken once before. And if the galaxy ever pushed them again, there would be no survivors left next time. The future that waits. And yet, even as the galaxy accepted its new rulers, even as humanity enforced absolute peace, something lingered in the void. The architects were still out there, hiding, watching. Humanity had won this war. But they knew the real war had not yet begun.